Julian Assange's day in a U.S. court placed on hold as a UK judge has ruled that he cannot be extradited to the United States until it receives assurances that Assange would receive a fair trial. The UK judges will hold another hearing on May 20th to evaluate whatever assurances are or are not sent. Assange is facing espionage charges for publishing what's called WikiLeaks, one of the biggest national security stories in history. He's had a Byzantine journey since 2010, holding up for a long time in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, 7 years of that, and then in a high-security prison for another 5.
When WikiLeaks was published in 2010, it released a trove of classified information detailing U.S. statecraft in Afghanistan and Iraq. The government said it put individuals and U.S. assets in danger. Assange always maintained that WikiLeaks was a multimedia organization and that Americans and the world had a right to know. Part of the WikiLeaks trove included a then classified video of a 2007 helicopter attack in Baghdad, killing about a dozen people, including 2 Reuters journalists. Let's take a look at that.
Bushmaster, 2 things. We need to move time now.
All right, we just engaged all 8 individuals.
Yeah, we got 2 birds. We're still firing.
Roger.
Got him.
6 is a 2-6. We'll move, but we got 13.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I was
bypass.
God damn it, Kyle.
Sorry. I hit it by head.
At the very core of the case is whether Assange is a journalist or not. Press freedom groups say espionage.
Got a bunch of bodies laying there.
All right, we got about 8 individuals.
Yeah, we got one guy crawling around down there, but yeah, we definitely got some. We're shooting some more.
Roger. Hey, you shoot, I'll talk. Hotel 26, Crazy Horse 18.
Crazy Horse 18, this is Hotel 26, over.
Roger, currently engaging approximately 8 individuals, KIA, RPGs, and AK-47s.
At the very core of the case is whether Assange is a journalist or not. Press freedom groups say espionage charges should be dropped and that the case against him is politically motivated and an attack on a free press. Now, this is kind of a fascinating indictment of our own legal system, because part of the issue here, when they say they want assurances that he would face a fair trial, part of it is they want assurances he's not going to face the death penalty. We are an outlier in much of the Western world and still having that as a potential outcome for people charged with crimes here in the United States. And it is a real moment of exposure of how kind of off-center we really are.
Yes, and it's always important to remember that Julian Assange is actually an Australian citizen, and Australia has expressed concerns as well. Australia is an important U.S. ally in this era of, wanting to maintain good relations with our supporters worldwide. They have also protested what is going on with him. So it's it's a national security issue in addition to everything else, or it's a global stability issue. Julian Assange, as we say every time we talk about this, did the work of journalism. He did not steal private information. He published information that came into his possession from Chelsea Manning. Chelsea Manning served time and was partner, I believe, commuted in terms of the sentence. But Assange, who just did exactly what the Washington Post and the New York Times and other media outlets have done when they've obtained, yes, classified or state secrets that they think are in the interests of the public. The public ought to know that it contradicts some government narrative, as this assuredly did, what we just watched, change people's perception of the U.S. involvement in the Middle East. So to say that he should continue to suffer, and he's already, even if you do think, and I don't, clearly, but if you do think that he should have suffered some kind of penalty for that, he was under house arrest for years. He's been in prison for years. The toll it's taken on his health is extraordinary. We've heard from his stepbrother, from his wife, and others. He has suffered a lot for the alleged crime of letting you know what your government wanted to keep secret from you.
That video in particular, the Black Hawk video, in this contemporary context is even more resonant because, as we've discussed on the show today and other times this week, we have been confronted with a startlingly similar sort of a video of drone footage from Gaza tracking 4 Palestinian youths, and then bombing them, killing 3 of them, it seems, instantly. 1 gets away and it tracks and it kills the last one. And that kind of deliberate killing of unarmed civilians was enough to shock the conscience of America at one point in American history because of the reporting of Julian Assange. And now today we live in a world where that video has gone viral in a digital media environment, but has only once made it onto the mainstream cable news, perhaps because Julian Assange proved how resonant and impactful that kind of reporting is. And so keeping that in mind, to not really appreciate the value of him in this moment, and to appreciate this pause, this little bit of relief that's been extended here, it is a adjournment for a period of 55 days until May 20th, subject to a bunch of directions, according to the filing. I think there is some hope that this is going to be evidence that we're moving in the direction of an ultimate release, and not that the trial will just continue and lead to prolonged incarceration here in the new U.S. prong of this debacle.
Yeah. Look, it's very clear what should happen at this point.
Yeah.
He's been locked up in one context or another for years. President Biden should simply, just proactively issue a pardon, or just drop or a commutation, or drop the charges. Just indicate he's not going to be charged and he can be a free man. Yeah. That is absolutely what should happen. That is what progressives want to happen. That is what many other people in the media who I think, without naming, people could have been more vocal and kept the Assange story alive. But frankly, other press organizations have railed about his conditions in the past. So have many people on the right, including Tucker Carlson. There is a tremendous interest in having him, a journalist, be free, and it would just be the easiest thing in the world. It would make like a couple Victoria Nuland type people mad, and who cares?
Yeah, and it's interesting. So Tucker Carlson visited Assange in prison. He has been talking about this. He didn't, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to remember him not asking Donald Trump about this directly in the interview that they did at the end of last year, which caught some criticism. Because
Trump was going to maybe do it.
This was an opportunity to say, okay, we're in an election season. I frankly, as someone who would like to see Democrats talking about this more, Biden talking about this more, hear Trump come out and say, I would pardon Julian Assange to put some pressure on the other side of the aisle. Let's have a race to the top for once instead of a race to the bottom. And, so few people with the ideological sympathy for Julian Assange are ever getting the chance to directly interview Donald Trump. That does feel like that was a real missed opportunity.
Yes, it would have been great if Trump had done that in the final days of his presidency. There was some talk about doing it. I've heard some people argue that he, and I have no idea whether this is the case or not, that he was inclined to do it, but then after January 6th, felt like he could not risk further alienating the more law and order, national security, Republican type people.
Trump regularly talks about how he's going to pardon the January 6th heroes. What does he call them? He doesn't call them heroes. Hostages.
Well, that's now. At the time, he didn't do that. But he could have, but he didn't.
But I'm talking about the Tucker interview that was done just the end of last year. Sure. I forget, it was in the fall at some point.
No, I meant when he was actually president.
No, I know. Yeah. But this is the question. Is anyone going to hold him accountable to what he could do if he is elected again? This could be an inducement to vote for him, especially for folks that are occupying this kind of independent, RFK Jr. curious tranche of the electorate. Knowing that Donald Trump were going to stand on some of these previously held values and maybe answer for why he didn't do it the last time around. Look, if he wants to give as an excuse, I was in the thick of the 1/6 stuff, fine. Well, then make a day one commitment about Julian Assange, and frankly, it would help him enormously electorally. And again, pressure Democrats to take a similar position, which again, race to the top.
I mean, he did. I'm looking at Tucker Carlson had Pamela Anderson on in January of 2021 to urge Trump to pardon Assange before he left office.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, we hope some action on this front is imminent. I don't know. I've got a good feeling, but it's just a feeling, and we really don't know. Obviously, anything is possible, and it could get a lot worse before it gets better, but hopefully that is not the case. That does it for us today on Rising. Tomorrow, I will be here. You will be off, I believe.
I'm off for the rest of the week, taking a little bit of a trip to the West Coast, but be back. Robbie and his co-host, I'm not sure who's subbing in for me yet.
We're going to leave that a surprise because I don't quite know either. No, I believe it's going to be Amisha Cross. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any of our content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we're available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please join me back here tomorrow, and we will see Brianna when she gets back next week. Bye-bye.
Take care.